resolve shown during this period of the coronavirus pandemic adversely affecting the global socioeconomic space. We begin with the story that the European Union has backed the World Health Organization and multilateral efforts to fight the coronavirus after Trump threatened to quit the global agency. This is the time for solidarity, not the time for finger-pointing or for undermining multilateral cooperation, European Foreign Affairs spokeswoman Virginia Batu Henriksen told reporters. The EU sponsored a motion at today's session of the WHO's annual assembly to urge an impartial, independent, and comprehensive evaluation of the international response to the pandemic. Spain has lifted a ban on all direct flights and ships from Italy since March 11 during its coronavirus lockdown, according to the government gazette. Travelers from Italy will have to comply, however, with a 2-week quarantine like other foreign investors while a state of emergency is in place. Some of the world's leading tennis stars, including men's #1 Novak Djokovic, has rallied behind relief efforts led by Pakistan's top tennis player to help feed people affected by the coronavirus pandemic. The initiative was launched last week by double specialist Aizam-ul-Haq Qureshi, who has been raising funds and delivering door-to-door ration packs to poor families suffering due to the country's partial lockdown. Children in the Australian state of New South Wales will return to school full-time from next week, the state premier Gladys Berejiklian has said. Berejiklian said the state government had used the time that children were home to prepare schools as a coronavirus-safe environment, but warned that temporary closures would probably be necessary to contain sporadic outbreaks of the virus. The decision caught the state teachers' union by surprise. It caused a lot of concern, frustration, and anger among students, teachers, and principals, Teachers Federation President Angelo Gavielato said. About 800,000 children attend school in New South Wales, Australia's most heavily populated state. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has set aside $11 billion in new funding to support coronavirus testing. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will provide $10.25 billion to states, territories, and local jurisdictions, the CDC said in a statement. The Indian Health Service will provide $750 million to the IHS, tribal and urban Indian health programs, he added. HHS Secretary Alex Azar said the historic investment would enable the U.S. to track and control the spread of the virus as the country reopens. For the sake of all Americans' health and well-being, we must help Americans get safely back to work and school, and that requires continued expansion of testing, surveillance, and contact tracing, he said. Studies from the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, and the International Council of Museums have confirmed that more than 85,000 museums across the world, about 90% of all institutions, are shut down because of the coronavirus. Almost 13% may never reopen. UNESCO said protection of staff, digitization, and inventory, as well as online content development, were priorities for museums, but noted that there were large disparities in digital access between different regions. Turkey has extended a travel ban in 15 major cities for 15 more days to stem the spread of the coronavirus. In a statement, the Interior Ministry said the travel ban will continue until June 3, and those who do not comply with the travel restrictions will face administrative fines. Egypt has extended a halt to all international passenger flights to curb the spread of the coronavirus, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbul said in a statement. Flights at Egyptian airports were suspended on March 19, and the stoppage will continue until further notice, the statement said. South Africa's World Cup winning squad are using the score from last year's final in Japan to launch a campaign to feed people affected by the COVID-19 crisis. A total of 100,000 raffle tickets are being sold at 32.12 South African rand, which will pay for food parcels and soup kitchens. The Springboks beat England 22-12 in November's final to win the World Cup for a third time, and many of their top players have already launched their own initiatives to collect food for the hungry, notably Captain Siya Kolisi. Survivors of sexual and gender-based violence who have been forced to leave their home countries are now facing greater risks due to the spread of coronavirus and the restrictions brought in to force to fight it, according to a new study. These survivors, mostly women, are having to deal with increased vulnerability to further abuse and exploitation, researchers reported today. Many are trapped between remaining in abusive situations or becoming homeless as they do not qualify for public housing. Isolation, limited social contacts, and no access to services also reminded some survivors of the restrictions they faced in conflict and under siege before they fled their homes. As a charity, we are seeing a huge increase in hardship for SGBV survivors in the UK asylum system particularly, Pip McKnight, head of policy at Refugee Women Connect, said. This is a population already suffering from the structural inequalities of the UK asylum system, which operates a hostile policy for those that are destitute and in need of asylum support. This support is set at 50% of mainstream benefits, about £5 per day, which requires those in receipt of asylum support to rely on the charity sector. With access to food banks limited, food prices rising and services closing, we are seeing our clients really struggle. The study looks at the experiences of survivors in the UK, Turkey, Tunisia, Sweden, and Australia, and was based on interviews with 52 survivors and 45 service providers. Researchers estimate hundreds of thousands of people living in these 5 countries alone face increased risks. The current COVID-19 confirmed cases in Nigeria are 6,175, with 1,644 recoveries and 191 deaths recorded. Lagos leads with 2,624 cases, followed by Kano 842 and FCT 422. Abia, Anambra, and Benue are the states with the lowest cases with 5 each. Total sample tests carried out so far are 36,899. Kogi and Cross River states are still yet to officially record any COVID-19 cases. And that will be all for today's edition of The Human Angle. You can send your videos and pictures to news@polshareng.com or programs@polshareng.com, and let's share your experience and views. Visit our website www.polshareng.com to get more updates from our news stories and videos. Also follow our social media platforms showing on the screen for further updates on our market reports. Join us by 6 p.m. for our evening segments, which will be streamed live on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter channels. See you tomorrow. Thank you for watching and keep staying safe.